to Under the Hood Sports on the University of Memphis radio station, The Roar. Hey man, I'm your host with the most, Johnny Hill. And man, I got a two-time Super Bowl winning champ. He played for the Giants. He does it all, man. And he's an overall solid dude. Coach David Diehl. Say something to the audience, Coach.
Johnny, good to be here this morning with you. I'm excited to go under the hood.
Yes, sir.
Whether we're talking about sports, journalism, broadcast, life. I've been through a lot of my career, 42 years. I'm 42 years old currently. And whether it was at the high school level, the college level, the pro level, working within the media of the New York City market and the big metropolitan area, I've experienced a lot of things in my life, but I'm truly blessed and humbled, not only by the support staff I've had in my life, but the people that I've got to meet throughout my entire career to help me propel to where I am today.
Man, yes, sir, man. You said a lot, man. And Coach, first again, thank you for coming on this show. What people don't know about you, man, is how much you do help the youth out, man. Like I see you all the time around the facility, and you just willing just to give your time. And just like right now, you giving your time to help me out. And I just want to thank you, Coach, because not a lot of people do that, and especially someone who done what you have done, man, and it's just amazing, man, and I'm grateful for this opportunity.
You got it, John. I think that's just a sign of who I am. My values in life are faith, family, and football, and that's never changed. And the true characteristics that I stick by truly in my life that have helped me succeed. I've always been accountable. I've always been consistent. I've always been disciplined. I've always been loyal. But more importantly, I've always been a leader. And leadership to a lot of people is, he's the loud guy, he's the vocal guy. That's not leadership to me. Leadership to me is when you can look to the person to your left and to your right and care about them as individuals and help them succeed in their life, whether it's based upon what's going on currently in their life or where they want to go and what direction they want to lead to. And listen, life is going to throw you adversity.
Yeah.
And the most important thing that you can learn throughout that adversity are the people that you surround yourself with.
Yes, sir.
I've always said, in prosperity, all your friends know you. Everybody wants a piece of that victory. Everybody wants a taste of winning. But in adversity, you know who your real friends are. Because when things are tough, all of a sudden, it ain't those same people that were sitting there hanging on those coattails wanting to be a part of it. The people that stand by you are the people that feel your passion and your love and your energy and feel it on a daily basis and know that you're not doing it for the benefit of yourself. You're doing it for the benefit of them, And that's one of the biggest things on why I got into coaching is, unfortunately, on December 3rd, 2020, I, like most people who have had to deal with some tough actions in their life, I lost one of my best friends since I was 6 years old to suicide. And it was one of the toughest times, especially going through a pandemic, to have to deal with that. And then to go back to Chicago and see my friends and to see them feeling the same way that I did, I knew I needed to do something to turn that negative into a positive. So, number one, the speech that I had to give and to talk on his behalf, I'm a talker. It was one of the toughest moments I've ever had in my life. To have to read that note for the first time in front of 500 people, to talk about his legacy, to talk about what he meant to so many people. And you want to talk about a mentor of helping people. This is an individual that helped over 70 kids go to college from high school. Helped them with whether it was getting tutors, whether it was getting academic advisors, whether it was getting them help just to help to see those kids succeed. So in that letter, when I was personally challenged to use my talents, my love for the game of football, and my love and my leadership to help people, to do it in a trajectory to where I was helping a team and individuals, compared to what I was doing broadcasting. I absolutely love broadcasting.
Yeah.
I played for the Giants for 12 seasons. I started in 03. My last year was 2014. I was the first player to go to the field, to the press box for NFL on Fox since Troy Aikman, when he retired.
Yes,
so I made some great accomplishments from 2014 till 2021. I watched every NFL draft prospect come into the combine and into the draft. From 2003 to 2021, I watched every NFL game competitively, breaking down both sides of the ball and doing analysis on it. And I would go and I would do my shows and I would do my radio shows and I would do stuff for Fox or for CBS, and I'd have a kick-ass show, Johnny.
Yeah.
And you'd put in all this preparation, and the minute the show was over, hey, great job. That was it. I didn't have that gratification knowing that I was truly helping people out and helping people reach their truest potential. And that's where, for me, that completely changed my trajectory from going from broadcasting to coaching.
Man, Coach, let's rewind right quick, right? You're from Chicago.
Yep, South Side.
South side of Chicago,
Yep.
man. How was it transitioning from Chicago to the New York market?
Well, you know what? I was used to a big city, so that wasn't anything different for me. But the size of New York City, the emphasis in the media market that's put on sports and then football, especially when you're a starter and a member of the New York Football Giants at the left tackle position, you're going to get a lot of attention.
Yes, sir.
And the biggest thing that you have to stay true to are those values that I told you of who you are as a person, and to go along with that leadership aspect. You can take the credit when prosperity's there, but when adversity hits, you have to be able to take accountability for that as well. And one of the biggest factors of why I was able to have that relationship and for the media market to not get too big for me is because when you're prepared for something and you've put everything in with your habits and rituals and you've dedicated yourself to that week, to that game, whether the result on Sunday comes out your way or not, when you lose, you don't lose the lesson.
Yes, sir.
Because you've already known that you put in enough work, you were physically in shape, you knew your offense down cold, you knew the defense, so you can learn from those bad experiences and not let it be like quicksand where it's pulling you down.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I would have watched more film. I wish I would have been more in shape. I wish I would have done a little more extra sets. That's a pitfall that's going to continue to happen in your life as long as you don't take care of the details necessary to be the best at your craft. You know, mental toughness is the ability to be your best on command, regardless of how you feel.
Yes, sir.
That's football. That's life. Things are going to get thrown at you, and that split second that you don't react and you hesitate, you know that there's somebody waiting in your coattails that's been waiting their whole life for just that one shot,
moment,
one opportunity to get it. And once they get it, and if you're not prepared, you know they will never let it go because you know how much it meant for them to just get that one opportunity. And you can't think of it any other way, whether you're thinking about it as a practice, whether you're thinking about it as a game, whether you're thinking about it as an individual play. You know, as a left tackle, you're playing up against the best of the best. In 2009, when I made the All-Pro team, 16 regular season games, I went up against 11 first-rounders, 9 All-Pros, and 5 guys that are going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, it's not all going to go perfectly. But when you have those habits and rituals in line, it doesn't make you pull into the quicksand because you can have a quick conscience. You can learn from it, snap back into the next play, and move forward. Because if you let that third play affect the fifth play, affect the 10th play, man, you aren't ever going to get out of it.
Yes,
and it's no different than in life, whether you're in the business world, whether you're in the journalism world. You know exactly when you make a call what went right and what went wrong.
Yes, sir.
And it's up to you to have the habits and rituals and the discipline in order to correct those things to move forward so that that next call, you learn from the one before, it has no effect lingering from that one to the next one, and you go into the next one with that same passion, that same energy, that same excitement that you had for the first one because you've learned from it.
Yes, sir. Man, Coach. You dropping some jewels on us, man.
I've been through a lot of my
Man,
life,
Coach,
Johnny.
you dropping some jewels.
42 years old. Like I said, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, went to Brother Rice High School. I decided to stay in state to go to the University of Illinois. When I got committed there and when I was recruited, my class was in 98. They were 0-11 the season before we all committed. And out of 21 guys that committed to the University of Illinois that year, 18 of us were from Chicago. We took pride in our own state. We took pride in our own school. And that made a huge factor in the way that we were able to turn around that program. To be third in the Big Ten by 99, to win the Big Ten in 2001 and win games at Ohio State, at Penn State, at Michigan, at Iowa. Those are things that were part of that bond and that family atmosphere that we had, but still with that manner, you hold yourself accountable to a standard that everybody has to abide by. Because it has always been, when you're successful and you're part of a group that is successful in a championship caliber team, it's all about those standards over your feelings.
Yes, sir. Man, Coach, let's dive deeper into, because this is a journalism department that we're in right now. Let's talk about the broadcasting aspect that you have done, Coach. What led you to go into broadcast?
So at the University of Illinois, once again, overachiever, I graduated in 3.5 years with my degree in communications. Mm-hmm. In my final year and a half, I graduated with my degree in human resources through the education program. This is something that I always knew that I wanted to be a part of, was the sports dynamic and atmosphere of broadcasting. I just love talking about the game that I love so much and about sports, because when you talk about sports, there is a common link among everybody. Doesn't matter race, creed, religion, what demographic background you came from. It's all about bringing that group together for one individual purpose, to talk about that game, to talk about that team, and to get away from some of the crap that you have to deal with on a daily basis. Not to mention, for me, just to be able to take my experiences of life, and whether it's telling a story, whether it's the X's and O's of football, if you hit one person, you can make an impact on their lives forever. I know that personally. I have my Walter Payton tattoo on the back of my right calf. Yeah. I met Walter Payton at a YMCA when I was 9 years old as a kid in Chicago. They didn't tell us who was coming. They said that they had a special guest come, so we're all excited. Sweetness walks in the door. Sweetness, Walter Payton,
that's legendary.
Walks in the door. And he spent an hour and a half with me and the rest of the kids there on a Saturday morning, throwing the football around, talking about school and about life. And I always said to myself, when I make it, that's the type of person I want to be. Yeah. Somebody that knows that they have a different profession, but they're no different as an individual as anybody else. They just have a different job. It's all the way about how you carry yourself and how you treat other people and the relationships that you build, because those are bonds that you'll have forever. So for me, that's where that broadcasting aspect of being able to talk about sports, my personal opinions, my personal life stories that I've had in my life, and bring those on the air and do it with passion and love and energy. I mean, anybody can feel that. You and I both know, whether you hear somebody talking about it or if you see somebody in front of you, body language never whispers. Yeah. Part of my language, it effing screams. Yeah. You know right away if somebody's confident about what they do, whether they love what they're doing, whether they're prepared, whether they're looking you in the eye. Do they have that energy and excitement? Or is it another one, well, they're not making eye contact, the shoulders are over. You can feel that. Yeah. And when you're around people on a daily basis and they start to get you to know you as a person and know your personality traits and see that's what's infectious in life.
Man. Like you said, it can become infectious. Man, Coach, let's dive into this, man. Like I talked a little bit about you being a 2-time Super Bowl winning champ. 2-time. Yeah. Come on now. Coach, just describe to the audience about having that confetti just rain down on you receiving that Lombardi, man.
That once again, going back to never forgetting your roots and where you came from and what it took to get there. As that confetti's dropping and you're sitting there, the world champs. I mean, you are the world champs at that moment. Still to this day, if I think back at that moment, I look at my 2 Super Bowl rings, not an individual thing comes to mind to me. I think about my mom and my dad and the sacrifices they made. I think about my brothers. I think about my coaches. I think about my friends and family who, regardless, because I would never change, but if I ever changed, would be the one that kicked my ass back into shape if I ever changed my attitude and didn't remain humble. I mean, those are the people that stick by you through thick and thin.
Yes, sir.
And when that happens, you're not only winning individually, they feel the energy of that win. Yeah, they weren't on the field doing it, but they know that they were a part of it because they're living through you as a person. And it's no different when you think about it through the lens that I had. Unfortunately, I lost my father, before my rookie season. Right, I found out, this is a whole nother story that I'll start off with. Yeah. So I get drafted by the New York Giants in the 2003 draft in the 5th round, pick number 160. I get to the Giants. I'm working extremely hard throughout the rookie mini camps, veteran mini camps. I get to training camp and I'm moving up the ranks, up the depth chart. Once I get to the second team and I start getting in with the first team, I got into a fight every day, Johnny.
Really?
I'm not talking, every other day, maybe here and there. Every day, the defensive line started to fight with me. Every day, a linebacker started to fight with me. And they kept doing it and kept doing it, and I kept fighting back and fighting back. To finally, I make my way up to the starters in the third preseason, and I'm going to start my first game at right guard as a 21-year-old rookie versus the 4th overall pick in the draft who was drafted by the Jets. I'm like, this is my time to prove who I am, to show what type of person I am, and that I deserve to be on this field, regardless of whether I'm a rookie, whether I'm 21. I'm ready for this moment. I went out there, had an unbelievable game, Johnny. Shut this guy down all game.
Yeah.
To find out after the game, our head coach, Jim Fossil, comes up to me and says to me, David, it's time to go do media. Come with me. I was like, yeah, no problem. So I go to take off my shoulder pads. He's like, no, David, stay. Just leave him on. So I go walking with him. I don't know what's going on. I'm clueless. I just go to the media. All right, yeah. I don't know. I've never done it before in New York. So he brings me upstairs, and we turn the corner to his office, and I see my brother and my cousin standing in there, and I instantly know something's wrong. My father passed away from a heart attack the night before at 59 years old. And that was such a true turning point for me because I had to fly back on Sunday. We had the services on Monday and Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, I fly back to New York because we have our final 4th preseason game on Thursday in Baltimore against the Ravens. And the minute that I get back to the facility and I get back to my locker, there's a note on my seat that says, see Wellington Mara immediately. We all know, Hall of Fame owner, he's the Duke that's on the NFL ball. I mean, an absolute legend, not only in the NFL, but as a human being and as a person. So he said, David, I know how difficult this must be for you to lose your father and one of your best friends like I had that relationship with my father. I just want you to know that this door is always open and this is your family now. That's why I played my whole career for the New York Giants from that moment forward. To have that said to a 21-year-old player who was there less than 3 months, to have him and his wife call my mom and my family to make sure that they were okay, to make sure that there was a Giants bouquet there for my father, I didn't want to play for another organization. When you have an organization that believes and stands by you when they barely know you at that point, that goes to show you the commitment that they had to me, and I deserved to give that commitment directly back to them. And that was a critical moment in my life of understanding that this may be a profession, but you can still be part of an organization that treats you like a person and as an individual and part of the family.
Man, Coach, you said something that really stuck out to me. I can't even imagine that, like losing my father and my best friend around the same time, right? Like, just continue to talk about, Coach, going deeper, how critical that support system was for you as a young man.
No doubt about it. I mean, I think about, number one, that support staff. My best friend Tommy, who at the time in 2003 was actually playing on the Croatian national basketball team in Europe. He made the team. And when my father passed away, he's another one that I literally, you know how you have your guys that you grew up with. He's another one that has been one of my, literally since 6 years old, has been my best friend. He's my daughter's godfather. Like, he has been that stability in my life like a brother. And for him to stop and drop all that, to fly from Croatia to New York and spend the first month and a half with me, man, I would not have been able to have the start to my career and the season that I had if it wasn't for him. 21 in a new city. I don't know anybody. I don't know what an NFL season's going to be like. I've never been through this before. And to think about having to try to do that by myself on my own, I know I wouldn't have been able to do that. So to have that happen, it really didn't fully affect and hit me until after the season. Like, don't get me wrong, from that point forward, for all 175 starts in my NFL career, right before the game started, I'd have my equipment manager write my dad's initials on my gloves before the game So anytime I looked down, I knew I had why I was doing it more than just myself. Because I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for my dad. My dad was in the Air Force, served 2 tours, Korea, Cambodia, was very disciplined and strict, but not drill sergeant strict.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, having a conversation with my dad. I want to say I was in like 5th or 6th grade. And I'm running late for basketball practice, because I didn't play, this is a whole nother story. I didn't play football until high school.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm running late to a basketball practice. I'm like, Dad, let's go. I want to get my free throws in this. Now I go make your bed. That was always his thing. Make your bed first thing in the morning. No. I got to get these free throws in. No. Go make your bed. No, I got to go. And the old dad, the hand on shoulder, sit down. I get that. He's like, David, do you think that I'm doing this to, be a drill sergeant or a disciplinarian or just to bust your chops? He goes, but there's a reason why I do this, and there's a reason why you should make your bed every single morning. It's like, well, what's that? Number 1, it's the first goal and objective that you can complete on the day successfully to set yourself up for success for the day. Number 2, if you're telling people that you're organized, you're detailed, you're disciplined, you have everything in line, you have a structure, you have goals, you have aspirations, what would they say if they walked into your own house with the living habits that you have? Do you live the same life outside of your house that you do inside of your house? And last but not least, number 3, whether you've had a shitty day or whether you've had the most unbelievable day in the world, there's no better feeling to go home and earn the right to get a great night of sleep in a made bed.
Man, that's big.
Yeah.
That's big right there.
And I know people say, oh, well, we heard this from the University of Texas. There was a sergeant that said this as a valedictorian speech. I've been living this literally since the 80s, so you can't take credit for that one.
Man, Coach, what advice, because there's a lot of kids who play the game of football, man, but what advice you got to them to see that they can get to the level you were at?
Number 1, I think that it does come down to coaching, and like we said, having those people that are in your circle that are there to benefit and help you accomplish your dreams and allow you to where you want to go. I've already done 12 seasons on the New York Giants. I made Rookie of the Year. I made it for the team. Most Improved Player of the Year. Team MVP. Offensive Player of the Year. Rookie. I said Rookie of the Year. And then Wellington Mara Man of the Year award. So I won every single Giants award possible. I was a Pro Bowl player. I was an All-Pro player. I won 2 Super Bowls. I started 175 games at 4 different positions on the O-line in the NFL. I'm not. I shouldn't say no. I'm not going to even say that word. I'm okay. I was going to say I will never use the word complacent. That's the word that was about to come out of my mouth. Never use that word.
No, that's not a good word.
I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
I know what I've accomplished in my life as a player. So my job as a leader is to help other players and inspire them to bring out those actions in them. Listen, I'm a firm believer in coach the hell out of them, hug them later. When they're on the football field, I'm going to coach you. I'm going to be critical. I'm going to try to bring out everything that you need individually to be successful, because we know one size doesn't fit all. Each person's different. Each person has different ticks. Some guys may need a kick in the ass. Some guys may need a hug. That's where that personal relationship that you have with those players comes out. Is that when you're able to coach the hell out of them on the field, but then how's your family? How's your mom and dad? How's everything going? How's school going? When you have that relationship with them, it allows them to understand you're critiquing what they did, not who they are. And I think that relationship and that coaching, those lines get blurred because you don't have that personal relationship with that person. Also, one of the biggest things that I think that you need to do in order to be a successful coach and a leader, hold those players to the standards that they hold themselves to. Listen, things are going to get uncomfortable. There's going to be times where life is uncomfortable. But in those uncomfortable moments, you find out exactly where you are, who you are at that moment, and where you want to go and the decisions that you need to make. And I think that's one thing that you do with these players is you make them hold to the standards of the goals that they want to accomplish themselves.
Yes, sir.
I'm a firm believer that a goal not written down is just a dream out there. If you don't write down your goals and if you don't have them strategically set up to you, people are going to talk to you and it's going to go in one ear and right out the other. But now all of a sudden when you have the coach that makes you write out your specific goals and what your dreams and aspirations are, and when that uncomfortable time comes, now that coach challenges you on your goals. Yeah. Not what he wants, what you want. It has a different atmosphere. It has a different feeling. It has a different emotional response to that player. Because I'm not telling you something that I want. I'm telling you something that you want for yourself. And I'm holding you to those standards. That's a big difference, I think, that it takes to have that type of coaching atmosphere and to have that type of relationship to help people thrive and succeed in life.
Man, Coach, jewel dropper, man. Coach, we talked about the player, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Coach, what do you got advice, encouragement for the young man and or woman who try to get into broadcasting or try to get where you was?
Get as much work as you possibly can. Take the experience over money when you get an opportunity to get an internship. You know, going back to, we were talking about broadcasting, and you know, I think we got into talking about my father and staying with the Giants and everything. But in 2007, we won our first Super Bowl. In 2008, I signed a long-term contract knowing that I was going to be a Giant for life. So at that point, I said to myself, this is where I need to start setting myself up for a post-career and life after football. Something that's going to bring out that same energy, that same competitiveness, that same edge that I had as a player, waking up with enthusiasm and ready to go. So in 2008, I did what was called the NFL Broadcast Boot Camp. It's a month long where you're going, and each week you're spending in different departments of the broadcasting of whether it's NFL Films, NFL Network, and you're the intern. Like, I could walk in there with that Super Bowl 42 ring from the year before, but if my boss says, go get me a coffee, I'm going to get him a coffee because he's teaching me a craft and a skill and teaching me and giving me knowledge of something that I don't know and that I need to know about. Like, if I always say, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room because you aren't going to grow and you're not going to learn and you're not going to have conversations that are going to enlighten you in life. People are different. People have different opinions. People see things through a different lens. But now all of a sudden when you sit down and talk to them, yeah, it may be different, but you have way more similarities with that person than you think that you have differences once you start talking. And that for me is really what propelled me from that, doing the broadcast boot camp, starting to do internships. From 2008 till 2014, I did 27 internships.
Wow.
Zero pay. And people say, well, you're an app. I was doing everything, whether it was the local newspaper, the local radio station, whether it was jumping on and trying to do interviews for different programs. Then it was, I worked at CBS, ESPN, NFL Network, WFAN, Sirius Radio. I did as much as I possibly could do to continue to build reps and to set myself up so that I had a resume post-playing career. You know, at that time, I mean, I shouldn't even say at that time, because still at this time, as an athlete, you've got an expiration date on you.
Yeah.
You know, at some point, whether it's high school, college, the pros, that expiration date's going to get pulled off of the shelf. 99% of the time, it's by somebody else, and it ain't by you taking yourself off of it. And I think the biggest thing with that is that when that time happens, whether you get cut or for me, when I had the ability to walk away from the game, you have to have yourself set up for success immediately. Because the people that have fallen into trouble is they think that football, sports are going to last forever. And then all of a sudden, whether it's an injury or whether you get cut, which happens in life, what's next? And a lot of people spend a year and a half, 2 years trying to find that next opportunity, that next goal, that next dream that's going to bring out that same passion that they had as a player, yet they're not getting the paychecks coming in. They're spending the same amount of money going out. Family around them isn't feeling the same love and energy out of that person, and that's where you fall into pitfalls as an individual. You've always got to be prepared for that moment. You've always got to be prepared for that next step. So like I said, I did all of those internships so that, number one, I was fully confident that this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And number two, like I said, I had a full resume, I had a full reel, I was ready to go and ready to transition seamlessly. Whereas if I wasn't ready, then I'm spending that next year, then that next couple months, you never know if you're going to get back to it.
That is true. Man, Coach, on Under the Hood Sports, we're big on having goals. So, Coach, tell the audience right quick, what are 3 goals you got for yourself?
Okay. First goal, be a head offensive line coach at the college level within a year. That's my number 1 goal. Number 2, my next goal would be, once I become that, to have at least 2 all-conference players on that offensive line and have at least 2 guys drafted within the first 2 years from that offensive line. That's a goal that I have, that I want to bring out in other players because I know that players are capable of it. And then my last goal when it comes to coaching, number 3, at some point within the next 5 to 10 years, I want to be a head coach. I love this game. I love the relationships. I love the coaches. I love the players. I love the people. I love the recruiting aspect. I love finding out, who players but more importantly, who people really are as individuals. And that's where, half my time when I first got to Memphis, when I got here in May, June, and July, I was helping them with like tips on the field, or whether it was working out when we'd have our little individual practices. Moreover, I was building relationships with the players, with the team. I was spending individual time with, whether it was the defensive backs, wide receivers. I wanted them to know me not only just as Coach Diehl, as a 2-time Super Bowl champion. I wanted to know that I was a coach that was going to be accountable, regardless of whether you were an offensive lineman or not. That when shit hits the fan, my phone's always on for you. And that's for life. If I've ever coached you, if you've ever been a part of my team, or if I've ever played with you and you've been a part of my team, I'm your teammate and coach for life, and that'll never change.
Man, Coach, do you got any final remarks? Because that was the last question from Under the Hood Sports. You got any final remarks?
I would say this. I would say the biggest thing, and I've got a lot of quotes that I love, and I've got some top 5 ones, but my favorite one is discipline equals freedom, because it's true. The more you procrastinate, the more pressure you put on yourself, the longer that it takes to get the job done. You skip through steps, you don't do it to the best of your ability, and you cram things into a time period of where you can use that time somewhere else. Work smart, don't work harder. By working smart, by getting things done early, by making sure you're prepared, by getting papers done early. Every one of these professors have office hours.
Yes,
and that was one of my key things, was I would get papers done early. I would have them get reviewed, whether it was by a TA, whether it was by a professor, so that when it came time, I was always a week in advance. I didn't have to press anything, and I could strategically take my time in order to do those things. And what do you know? You have more free time. You have more time to do things that you love to do. You have more time to explore what's really going to be your passion, when you leave college, when you get into a real profession outside of just your job. Because when you fall into that pitfall and this is all you have and you don't take any time for yourself or personal, that's where you run into stress. That's where you run yourself into the ground. You've got to have that common balance. And when you have discipline and your habits and rituals are structured around that,
yes, sir.
Number 1, you have self-confidence.
Yes, sir.
2, you can concentrate. 3, you have optimism. You have no negative self-talk about yourself. You're confident in your abilities and what you're doing, and allows you to relax and enjoy. What is that acronym? SCORE, SCORE.
Man, but that is smooth, and I'm with my guy, Coach Diehl. Coach, appreciate you for coming on the show.
Johnny,
man.
My pleasure to go under the hood.
Man, appreciate you, man. Hey, Coach, again, I'm grateful, man. And I always say something that, like, we're up next. You're up next, Coach. I'm grateful for everything you're doing, Coach, and I'm grateful you coming on my show again. And much success to you, Coach. I want to see you up there, man. Like you said, I want to see you become a head coach. I want to see you get the O-line, coach. I want to see you do it all, coach, because you're just a solid dude and you just done a lot for me, and I just want to see you do the best, man.
Appreciate it, Johnny. Feel the same about you, my man.
Thanks. Well, that is Under the Hood Sports, man, and we are out of here.